This is Emmy Award-winning Full Disclosure with Leslie Dutton, bringing you the news behind the news.
This is segment 5 of our interview with Assistant Sheriff Todd Rogers, who's running as a candidate for sheriff. A recent federal jail investigation has resulted in charges against 21 Los Angeles Sheriff's Department officials, with some accused of brutalizing jail inmates and even visitors. Deputy James Sexton is being tried along with 6 other sheriff's officials for obstructing the FBI investigation for hiding an inmate informant. This has generated a lot of media attention. We asked Mr. Rogers if this attention has helped certain candidates and not others.
Well, I'll just make a general statement that I think some of the media coverage, not all, but some has been very biased in favor of a candidate favored by the downtown LA establishment. And that's been very apparent in certain newspapers. So that being what it is, there has been a lot more scrutiny because not only did the former undersheriff testify, but he was also outed in federal court as a subject of a federal investigation. The Assistant U.S. attorney told him and said in open court, you are a subject of a federal investigation, and he acknowledged that he knew that. Now there is a distinction between subject and target, but I'm not sure what that is. If I'm a subject of a federal investigation, I'm not sure I'd be running for sheriff of Los Angeles County and have any credibility.
Has this media attention helped his campaign, we ask him?
That has certainly ramped up the interest. I have been featured more prominently in media lately because I am a member of the department. I have inside knowledge of some of these things that took place because I've actually spoken to some of the defendants in these federal cases who have told me that they were directed to do what they did by Mr. Tanaka, by Sheriff Baca, and I think it's reprehensible that they're facing trial for doing what they were told to do. And I don't absolve people from criminal misconduct, but if you have a junior deputy who's working Men's Central Jail and the undersheriff or sheriff order him to get an inmate and take him from point A to point B and guard him and don't let anybody talk to him unless the undersheriff approves it, that deputy's probably going to do that. And he'd probably do it again. He doesn't necessarily know that they're obstructing an investigation by the FBI or hiding this guy from the FBI.
Again, we ask him, has this media attention helped his campaign?
Certainly the media has been more interested in that because it's more sensational. And I think it's a little bit, there is a positive side to it because it's shedding light on the reality of who these candidates are, some of the candidates are, and the differences. For example, some have painted all of us who wear the sheriff star as inside candidates. Everybody's complicit in all this stuff that took place. And I think now folks understand there's a very clear distinction between Todd Rogers and Paul Tanaka.
The timing of the trial is curious. As the election nears, candidate Paul Tanaka is suddenly identified as the subject of an investigation, which is very damaging to his campaign. We asked Mr. Rogers if this was proper. The U.S. attorney, who basically released that information in the process of the trial,
Mm-hmm.
Is that ethical?
Sure. I don't see anything unethical about it. He was challenging his testimony, saying, are you saying this only because you're a subject? Everybody in the Sheriff's Department has known for months that he was a subject of a federal investigation. Most of us have expected him to be indicted at any time. So it's really a shock to us that he has not been indicted.
Without discussing issues of possible criminal actions of candidate Tanaka, we wondered about the political timing of this trial. Was it purposely timed to derail Tanaka's bid for sheriff? Why did he choose to do it then during the trial and not before, maybe before the campaign started or whatever?
Well, that's a good question, and I suspect that if the U.S. attorney was here, he would say, well, we don't want to get involved in political campaigns. And I've heard that comment attributed to certain folks in the federal system. We don't want to influence the campaigns. We'll let the voters decide what they want to do. We'll conduct our investigations. We'll make our decisions based upon, what's in the best interest of justice. So that would probably be the response that you would get. But yes, they could certainly announce that anybody's a subject of a federal probe at any time, I suppose.
Well then, Why was the Sexton case brought to the trial first? That is the case that specifically concerns whether he was ordered to hide the federal informant by Baca or Tanaka. Was this on purpose?
I don't think so. Sexton hired Thomas O'Brien as his attorney, and he's had his case severed from the others. I think that was the defendant's decision rather than the U.S. attorney's decision. So I can't say that there was any manipulation there. In terms of the scheduling of the trials, I'm not sure. I think that the federal judges set their dockets and set their trial schedules, so I couldn't say that there was any manipulation of that.
But you don't think that's just a coincidence that this all happened right in the closing days of the campaign?
I'm not typically a conspiracy theorist, but I'm also not naive. I know things like that happen. I don't want to accuse the U.S. Attorney's Office of manipulating federal trials to influence an election when they say just the opposite, that they don't want to influence an election. I don't have any evidence that that's the case. I have no information that that's the case. And I think I'd rather focus on my opponents in the race than picking a fight with the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Would it have been better to indict Sheriff Baca and have the trial on that rather than go after Sexton?
Well, yeah. I think I said that earlier, that I don't think that deputies, sergeants, lieutenants should be indicted for something they were told to do. Now, I don't know all the facts of the cases, and there may be some culpability among those people that I'm not aware of, but it seems clear to me that this operation was directed by the sheriff and the under sheriff. And if we're going to indict and try anybody, prosecute anybody for that, it should be them.
At this time, the trial is ongoing, and no further indictments have been handed down. This ends Segment 4. In Segment 5, we will hear what Todd Rogers thinks are the problems of electing the Long Beach Police Chief as the Sheriff of Los Angeles County. We'll be right back.